The knock came at 2 a.m. station time, soft but insistent against the metal hatch of crew quarters B-47. Brennan Torres jerked awake from his uncomfortable position on the couch, where he had fallen asleep reviewing maintenance schedules for the docking bay. The data pad slipped from his lap and clattered onto the deck plating. For a moment, he considered ignoring it. Nothing good happened at 2 a.m. on orbital station Vega 9. Late-night knocks usually meant emergencies, system failures, or drunk miners who had mistaken his quarters for someone else's. But the knock came again, quieter this time, almost hesitant. Brennan rubbed his eyes and stumbled toward the hatch, careful not to wake Rosie in the sleeping alcove beyond. Through the small viewport, he saw something that made him freeze completely. Director Savannah Cross stood outside his door. The Dralith female was unmistakable even in the dim corridor lighting. Her elegant horns caught the emergency strip's glow, casting shadows across her scaled features. But something was profoundly wrong. The proud arch of her spine was diminished. Her usually brilliant amber eyes looked dull, and the bioluminescent patterns along her wing membranes flickered erratically. Brennan had worked under Director Cross for 3 years. In that time, he had seen her intimidate corporate executives, negotiate with hostile mining guilds, and once stare down a malfunctioning cargo drone that was sparking dangerously close to a fuel line without flinching. He had never seen her look anything less than completely in control. Until now. He opened the hatch quickly. "Director Cross? I apologize for the intrusion," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. The usual commanding tone that made hardened engineers snap to attention was completely absent. "I did not know where else to go. Please come in." Brennan stepped aside, his mind racing. Protocol said he should not be entertaining his direct supervisor in his personal quarters at any hour, much less in the middle of the night. But protocol also did not account for the sight of the station's most powerful administrator looking like she might collapse at any moment. Savannah stepped inside, her tail dragging slightly on the deck. She wore a formal gown in deep midnight blue, something he recognized from the executive reception scheduled earlier that evening. The fabric shimmered with embedded fibers that caught light beautifully, but it was rumpled now, as if she had been gripping it tightly. "Papa, who is that?" Rosie's sleepy voice called from the alcove. "Just a friend, sweetheart. Go back to sleep." Brennan grabbed a clean cloth from the storage unit near the door and offered it to Savannah. She accepted it with trembling claws. For the first time since meeting her, Brennan noticed how delicate her hands actually were. In meetings, those claws had seemed dangerous, intimidating. Now, they just looked fragile. "You have a daughter," Savannah said, something like surprise breaking through her distress. "Edo. Rosie is 7. It is just the two of us now." Brennan gestured toward the modest common area. "Please sit." His quarters were nothing like the spacious executive suites on the upper decks. Standard crew issue meant efficiency over comfort, but Brennan had done his best. Rosie's colorful drawings covered one wall, bright crayon depictions of spaceships and aliens holding hands. A half-assembled model of a mining frigate sat on the small table, and toys were scattered across the floor in organized chaos. Savannah settled onto the worn couch, her wings folding tightly against her back. "I must look foolish." "You look human," Brennan said, then caught himself. "I mean, you look like you are hurting, which makes you look real." She made a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. "My bonding ceremony was tonight. 7 cycles of planning. My intended Kareth was everything my family wanted. Strong lineage, excellent connections, proper temperament for a mate of someone in my position." Brennan sat down on the storage crate across from her, maintaining a respectful distance. "What happened?" "I found him with my closest friend, Thessera, in the observation gallery during our own reception." Savannah's tail coiled tightly around her feet. "When I confronted them, they said everyone knew about their arrangement. Everyone except me, apparently. They said it was not personal, just practical. That I should understand the difference between political bonding and actual affection. That is incredibly cold. The Dralith do not bond for love the way humans do," Savannah said, staring at her hands. "We bond for family connections, for genetic compatibility, for social advancement. Affection is considered a pleasant bonus, but not a requirement. I thought I understood that. I thought I had accepted it. But you did not, Brennan said softly. She looked up at him, those amber eyes wet with tears. I wanted more. I wanted what I see in the human families on this station. The way your people choose each other, the way you build lives together based on something more than contracts and obligations. I wanted someone to look at me the way you look at your daughter when she shows you her drawings. Brennan felt his throat tighten. He had lost his wife, Sarah, 4 years ago in a medical transport accident. The grief had nearly destroyed him. But Rosie had given him a reason to keep going, to build a new life on this distant station far from Earth and all its painful memories. Director Cross. Savannah, she interrupted. Please, tonight, can you just call me Savannah? Savannah, he corrected himself. Why did you come here? To my quarters specifically. She was quiet for a long moment, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing slowly. At the operations meeting yesterday, do you remember what you said to me? Brennan winced. I told you that you were being unreasonable about the extraction quotas, that you were letting stress cloud your judgment. You said I was better than that, Savannah continued. Everyone else in that room either agreed with me blindly or stayed silent. Only you challenged me. Only you believed I could do better. The air between them felt charged suddenly, heavy with something Brennan could not quite name. He had always found the Dralith fascinating from a distance, their elegant movements and fierce intelligence. But he had never allowed himself to see Savannah as anything other than his boss, someone firmly outside the boundaries of his carefully ordered life. Now those boundaries felt dangerously thin. Say it again, Savannah whispered, leaning forward slightly. While facing me this time, Brennan met her gaze directly, his heart hammering. You are better than this. You deserve better than someone who would treat you like a contract instead of a person worth choosing. For a breathless moment, neither of them moved. Then Rosie's voice broke the spell. Papa, I cannot sleep. Can I have some water? Savannah stood abruptly, smoothing her gown. I should leave. This was inappropriate. You have responsibilities, and I am your supervisor. We can forget this happened. But as she turned toward the hatch, Rosie appeared in the alcove doorway, clutching her stuffed cloud whale. Are you crying? When I cry, Papa makes special hot cocoa. It helps. Savannah froze, her hand hovering over the hatch release. To Brennan's surprise, she turned and lowered herself to Rosie's level with grace. That sounds like excellent medicine, Savannah said gently. Would you show me how it is made? And just like that, at 2 a.m. station time, Brennan found himself in his tiny galley with his boss and his daughter, making hot cocoa as if it were the most natural thing in the universe. The next morning, Brennan woke to find a message waiting on his personal terminal. It was from Director Cross, formal and brief. Thank you for your kindness last night. Please disregard my intrusion. Normal operations resume at 0800 hours. He stared at the words, feeling an unexpected pang of disappointment. Of course, she would retreat behind professionalism. What else could he have expected? She was the director of operations for the entire station, responsible for 3,000 souls and mining operations worth billions of credits. He was a maintenance engineer who fixed broken airlocks and recalibrated gravity plating. But when he arrived at the morning briefing, Savannah caught his eye across the conference room, and something passed between them. Not quite a smile, but an acknowledgement. A shared secret in a room full of people who knew nothing about hot cocoa at midnight or a 7-year-old's wisdom about sadness. The days that followed settled into an unexpected rhythm. Savannah did not visit again, but she began appearing in places she normally would not. The commissary during evening meal times when Brennan usually brought Rosie to eat. The observation deck where families gathered to watch the asteroid miners return from their shifts. The education center where Rosie attended classes with other station children. Coincidence, Savannah said the first time, her tail swishing in what Brennan was learning to read as amusement. I am simply taking a more active interest in station morale. Of course, Brennan replied, though they both knew better. Rosie, with the straightforward honesty of children, simply accepted Savannah's presence as natural. Miss Savannah, do you want to see my science project? We're learning about different atmosphere compositions. Savannah, who normally intimidated decorated officers, listened with genuine interest as a 7-year-old explained nitrogen cycles with the help of colored blocks and enthusiastic hand gestures. 2 weeks after that midnight visit, the emergency alarms shattered the comfortable routine. Brennan was in the lower engineering bay when the lights shifted to red and the automated voice announced a containment breach in docking section 12. His blood went cold. Section 12 housed the primary school facility during morning hours. Rosie was there. He ran without thinking, his magnetic boots pounding against the deck plating as he raced through corridors filling with emergency response teams. Other parents had the same thought, all of them converging on Section 12, where a malfunctioning cargo hauler had crashed through the external shielding. The breach was small but growing, atmosphere venting into space with a high-pitched whistle that made Brennan's teeth ache. Emergency bulkheads had sealed the section, but dozens of children were trapped inside with their teachers, the oxygen supply dropping by the second. "Stand back." Savannah's voice cut through the chaos like a blade. She pushed through the crowd, still wearing her formal administrative uniform, but her wings were partially unfurled, and her eyes blazed with fierce determination. "Engineering teams, I need status on the secondary seals. Medical, prepare for possible decompression injuries. Parents, I need you to clear this corridor now. My daughter is in there," Brennan shouted, unable to contain himself. Savannah's eyes met his, and he saw fear there. Real, human fear. Not for the station or the operations or her career. Fear for Rosie. "I know," she said quietly, then louder to the assembled teams. "We have 12 minutes before oxygen levels become critical. The primary repair drones cannot reach the breach point because of debris. We need a manual repair. The radiation exposure from the damaged reactor shielding would be lethal," someone protested. "Not for Adralith," Savannah said calmly. "Our scales provide natural radiation resistance. I can reach the breach point and deploy emergency sealant while the drones clear debris." "Director, that is still extremely dangerous," the chief engineer objected. "The exposure time alone is acceptable compared to losing 37 children and 4 teachers." Savannah was already moving toward the equipment lockers, pulling out a maintenance suit modified for her physiology. "Torres, you know the sealant systems better than anyone. I need you to talk me through the application process." Brennan's professional instincts kicked in despite his terror. "The breach looks irregular. You will need to apply the foam in overlapping layers, starting from the outer edges. But Director, the temperature differential alone could damage your wings. Then I will manage without them." She met his eyes again, and in that moment, he saw everything she was not saying. That she cared about Rosie almost as much as he did. That these weeks of careful distance had been a lie they both told themselves. That if she could save his daughter, no risk was too great. "Let me go instead," Brennan said desperately. "I can suit up with the heavy radiation gear. You would die before reaching the breach point, and Rosie would lose her only parent." Savannah's voice was gentle but firm. "Let me do this, Brennan. Let me protect what matters." She was gone before he could argue further, disappearing through the emergency airlock with nothing but the modified suit and a pack of industrial sealant. Brennan watched through the observation port as she navigated the damaged corridor, her movements precise despite the hazardous environment. The minutes stretched like hours. He talked her through every step, his voice steady even as his hand shook. 30 degrees to your left. Yes, there. Apply the first layer in a circular pattern. Good. Now overlap on the lower quadrant." Other engineers crowded around, monitoring radiation levels and structural integrity. The numbers climbed steadily into dangerous territory. "Director, your exposure is reaching critical levels," someone warned. "Acknowledged," Savannah replied calmly. "Almost finished." Her movements were slower now, more deliberate. The bioluminescent patterns on her wings had dimmed, a sign of physical stress. But her hands remained steady as she completed the seal. "Breach contained," she reported. "Pressure stabilizing. Clear the children for evacuation." The bulkheads opened, and chaos erupted as parents rushed forward. Brennan found Rosie in the crowd, scooping her up and holding her so tightly she squeaked in protest. "Papa, I am okay." Miss Kenna, our teacher, kept us all calm. She said the adults would fix everything, and she was right. Yes, she was right, Brennan whispered into her hair. Then, more urgently, where's Director Cross? Medical teams were already rushing past him toward the airlock where Savannah had emerged. He caught glimpses through the crowd. Her scales looked dull, almost gray, and she was moving stiffly. The medical staff surrounded her immediately, scanners already deployed. "I need to see her," Brennan said, but a security officer blocked his path. "Family only, per Dralith medical protocols. You understand." "But he stopped, the words dying in his throat. He was not family. He was just an engineer who had made hot cocoa with her once. Why did he have to push past protocols and procedures? Rosie tugged at his sleeve. "Papa, Miss Savannah saved us. She was very brave." "Yes, she was," Brennan agreed, his chest tight with emotions he could not name. "The bravest." It was 3 days before he saw Savannah again. 3 days of checking his terminal obsessively for updates, of making excuses to walk past the medical wing, of lying awake at night, wondering if she was recovering, if she was in pain, if she regretted her choice. When she finally appeared at the morning briefing, she looked thinner, her scales less vibrant, and she moved with careful precision that suggested lingering soreness. But she was alive and whole, and when her eyes found his across the room, something fundamental shifted between them. After the meeting, she approached him directly for the first time since that midnight visit. "Torres, a word in my office." He followed her through the corridors, his heart pounding. Other crew members nodded respectfully as the director passed, unaware of the tension crackling between them. Her office was pristine and coldly efficient, all smooth surfaces and organizational systems. Nothing personal decorated the space except a single item on her desk that made Brennan's breath catch. One of Rosie's drawings. The purple princess from her bedroom wall. "She insisted I take it," Savannah said, following his gaze. "Said it would help me feel better. I did not have the heart to refuse." "Director." "Stop," she interrupted softly. "Stop calling me that when we are alone. We are past such pretenses, are we not?" Brennan moved closer, drawn by something he no longer wanted to resist. "Savannah, you could have died. I was not going to let your daughter suffocate." Her voice was fierce. "I was not going to let you lose anyone else." "Why?" The question came out raw, vulnerable. "Why does it matter to you?" Savannah was quiet for a long moment, her tail coiling and uncoiling. When she spoke, the words seemed torn from somewhere deep. "Because when I am with you and Rosie, I feel like I matter for who I am, not what I represent. Because your daughter offers me drawings instead of contracts. Because you challenge me to be better and believe I actually can be." She stepped closer, close enough that he could see the pattern of scales along her throat, the way her pupils dilated slightly. "Because somewhere in these past weeks, you both became the thing I was searching for when I appeared at your door that night. You became the choice I want to make every day." Brennan reached out slowly, giving her every opportunity to pull away. When she did not, his fingers touched the side of her face gently, careful of the delicate scales. "My daughter asks about you constantly. She wants to know when you will come have Coco again, when you will teach her more about your homeworld, when she can see your wings properly unfurled." "And what do you want?" Savannah whispered. "I want to stop pretending this is nothing," Brennan said honestly. "I want to stop lying to myself that you are just my supervisor, just someone I work for. I want." The words hung between them, too dangerous to finish. But Savannah finished them for him. "You want what I want. Something real. Something chosen." Her hand came up to cover his, her claws gentle against his skin. For a moment, they stood there in her sterile office, two beings from different worlds finding unexpected connection in the vastness of space. A chime at the door broke the spell. Savannah stepped back reluctantly, composing herself with visible effort. "Enter." But as the door opened to reveal another administrative crisis requiring her attention, she met Brennan's eyes one last time. The promise in that look was clear. This conversation was not over. They were not over. In fact, they were just beginning. The message came 4 weeks later, formal and cold in its bureaucratic language. Savannah was being recalled to the Dralith homeworld by order of the Council of Matriarchs. Her bonding contract with Kareth had been annulled due to his proven infidelity, but her family demanded she return home to arrange a new match. Someone more suitable, more appropriate, more aligned with her station and responsibilities. She had 2 weeks to transfer her duties and depart Vega 9. Brennan heard the news from the chief engineer before official announcements went out. He felt something crack inside his chest, sharp and painful. "They're saying she will be gone permanently," Thomas said, shaking his head sadly. "Shame, really. Best director we ever had. Heard she might end up in a government position back home. Big promotion." Brennan could not respond. He finished his shift mechanically, going through the motions of calibrating sensors and checking pressure seals without truly seeing anything. When he returned to his quarters, Rosie took one look at his face and immediately asked what was wrong. "Miss Savannah has to go away," he said, because he would not lie to his daughter. "Back to her home planet. But she will visit, right? She will come back." "I do not think so, sweetheart." Rosie's face crumpled, and she threw her arms around his waist. "That is not fair. She is our friend." "I know," Brennan whispered, holding his daughter close. "I know it is not fair." He did not see Savannah for 3 days. She buried herself in work, transferring operations data and training her replacement. He caught glimpses of her in corridors, always surrounded by assistants and staff members, always moving with purpose. She did not look his way. On the 4th day, she appeared at his hatch again. Not at midnight this time, but early evening when Rosie was still awake. His daughter launched herself at the Dralith female with uninhibited joy. "Miss Savannah, Papa said you were leaving. Please say it is not true." Savannah caught Rosie carefully, her claws gentle as she steadied the girl. "It is true, little one. My family requires my presence at home. But you do not want to go," Rosie said with that uncanny child perception. "I can tell." "No," Savannah admitted, her voice breaking slightly. "I do not want to go." Brennan stepped forward, taking Rosie gently by the shoulders. "Sweetheart, why do you not work on your homework for a bit? Miss Savannah and I need to talk." "But, please, Rosie." His daughter looked between them, reading things in their expressions that made her go quiet and serious. "Okay, Papa." When she retreated to her alcove, Savannah finally met Brennan's eyes. She looked exhausted, her scales dull and her wing membranes drooping. "I should not have come," she said. "It only makes this harder." "Then why did you?" "Because I am a coward," she replied bitterly. "Because I could not leave without seeing you both one more time. Because these have been the happiest weeks of my life, and I am not ready to give them up." Brennan moved closer, his voice urgent. "Then do not. Tell them no. Stay here. You do not understand what you are asking. My family, my entire culture, everything depends on these connections and obligations. If I refuse this summons, I will be cast out, disowned. I would lose everything. You would lose people who want to control you," Brennan countered. "You would gain your freedom." "Freedom to what?" "To be with you." Savannah laughed without humor. "A maintenance engineer with a human child? My people would never accept it. Yours would be confused at best. Interspecies relationships are rare enough. Add in our positions, our responsibilities." "I'm not asking you to make some grand declaration," Brennan interrupted. "I'm asking if what you feel for us is worth fighting for." Savannah's composure finally cracked. Tears welled in her amber eyes, spilling down her scaled cheeks. "Of course it is. But wanting something and having the courage to choose it are different things entirely." "You had courage when you went into that damaged corridor," Brennan said quietly. "You risked everything to save those children, to save Rosie. This is the same choice, just a different kind of danger." "That was easy. Physical danger, I understand. This," she gestured between them helplessly, "this requires me to abandon everything I was raised to believe, everything I thought I was supposed to want." Brennan reached out and took her hands carefully, mindful of her claws. "Savannah, listen to me. 3 years ago, I lost my wife. I thought my life was over. I thought the only thing left was taking care of Rosie and surviving day to day. Then you appeared at my door in the middle of the night, and everything changed. His voice grew stronger. You made me realize I was still capable of feeling something more than grief. You made me believe that maybe there was room in my life for more than just responsibility and routine. And watching Rosie with you, seeing how happy she is when you are around, how much she has grown by learning about your culture and your world. He stopped, gathering his courage. If you leave now, we will survive. We survived before you, and we will survive after. But we will not be better for it. We will be less than we could be. Savannah pulled her hands free, turning away. Her wings trembled visibly. You make it sound so simple. It is simple. It is just not easy. Brennan moved to stand in front of her again, forcing her to look at him. Say it again, while facing me. Tell me that leaving is what you truly want. She met his eyes, and the anguish there nearly broke him. I want to stay. I want to wake up knowing I might see you at breakfast. I want to help Rosie with her science projects. I want to learn all your human customs and introduce you to Dralith traditions. I want to build something real with you both. Then stay. My family will disown me. We will be your family, Brennan said firmly. Messy and imperfect and nothing like what you planned, but real. Chosen. Rosie's voice came from the alcove, small but determined. Please stay, Miss Savannah. We love you. Savannah made a sound between a sob and a laugh. She sank down onto the couch, her wings drooping completely. A 7-year-old child should not have more courage than a century-old Dralith. Children see things more clearly than adults, Brennan said, sitting beside her. They have not learned to be afraid of the right choice yet. For a long time, Savannah said nothing. She stared at her hands, her tail coiled tightly, her whole body tense with internal struggle. When she finally spoke, her voice was barely audible. If I do this, if I refuse the summons, there is no going back. No reconciliation with my family. No return to my homeworld. I will be truly alone. No, Rosie said, climbing onto the couch beside them. You will be with us. That is not alone. Savannah looked at the little girl, then at Brennan, and something in her expression shifted. The fear did not disappear, but it was joined by something else. Determination. Hope. You are both certain? She asked. This will not be easy. There will be judgment, complications, questions neither of us can answer. I am certain, Brennan said without hesitation. Me too, Rosie added, snuggling against Savannah's side. Savannah wrapped an arm around the girl carefully, her other hand finding Brennan's. Then I will stay. I will send my refusal to the council in the morning and face whatever consequences come. For the first time in my life, I will choose what I want instead of what I should want. Brennan felt relief flood through him so intensely it was almost painful. You will not regret this. Perhaps I will, Savannah said honestly. There will be difficult days ahead, but I would regret leaving more. They sat there together, an unlikely family forming in the modest quarters of a maintenance engineer on a remote mining station. Outside, the stars continued their eternal dance through the void. Inside, something new was beginning. The next morning, Savannah sent her formal refusal to the Council of Matriarchs. The response was swift and brutal. Her family name was stripped, her inheritance dissolved, her status as a recognized Dralith citizen revoked. She was declared oath-broken, severed from all ties to her homeworld. Brennan expected her to grieve. Instead, she seemed lighter somehow, as if an enormous weight had been lifted from her shoulders. Do you know what the irony is? She asked him over breakfast in the commissary, with Rosie chattering happily between them. I spent a century trying to earn their approval, trying to be the perfect daughter, the perfect administrator, the perfect match. And I was never happy. Now I have lost everything they valued, and I feel more myself than ever before. No regrets? Brennan asked gently. Savannah looked at Rosie, who was explaining her newest drawing to anyone who would listen, then back at him. Her bioluminescent patterns pulsed with a warm, steady glow. None whatsoever. The station adapted faster than expected. Interspecies relationships were unusual, but not forbidden, and Savannah's actions during the breach had earned her deep respect among the crew. When she formally stepped down from her director position to take a role in station operations that would not conflict with her relationship with Brennan, The announcement was met with understanding rather than scandal. Besides, Thomas said with a grin, everyone knew you two were gone for each other. The betting pool on when you would finally get together closed out 3 weeks ago. 3 months later, Brennan woke to sunlight streaming through the observation port of their new quarters. The station administrators had quietly assigned them family housing appropriate for their unusual situation, with space for Rosie and accommodations for Savannah's unique physiology. He turned his head to find Savannah already awake, her amber eyes soft in the morning light. Her wing was draped lightly across him, warm and protective. "Good morning," she murmured. "Good morning," he replied, reaching up to trace the pattern of scales along her jaw. The gesture had become familiar, comfortable. From the next room, they heard Rosie stirring, talking to her stuffed animals in that imaginative way children had. In a moment, she would come bouncing in, demanding breakfast and attention in equal measure. "Are you happy?" Savannah asked quietly. Brennan thought about his answer. He thought about grief and loss, about midnight visitors and hot cocoa, about courage and choice. He thought about how life never turned out the way you planned, but sometimes the unexpected paths led somewhere better than you could have imagined. "Yes," he said simply. "I am happy. Are you?" Savannah's bioluminescent patterns glowed brighter, a sign he had learned meant contentment. "More than I ever thought possible." Rosie burst through the door, right on schedule, launching herself onto the bed between them. "Papa, Miss Savannah, can we make pancakes? The special ones with the fruit that Miss Savannah likes." "I suppose we must," Savannah said with mock seriousness. "Though you will have to help me flip them. I'm still learning the proper technique." As they made their way to the galley together, a family bound not by tradition or obligation, but by choice, Brennan felt a profound sense of peace. The universe was vast and often cruel, full of loss and loneliness. But it was also capable of unexpected grace, of second chances, of love found in the most unlikely places. Outside their window, the stars continued their eternal dance. Inside, three souls who had found each other against all odds began another ordinary, extraordinary day together. The dragon woman had returned at dawn, not to leave, but to stay. And that made all the difference.